Today's the day. Let's get into these questions. So some of them are reptile related and some of them are not. And some of them I'm just not going to answer. So number one, is it hard to work with lizard stars? And what kind of demands does each of them have? So I guess I wouldn't say that they're hard to work with. Working with animals is definitely different, but I've been doing it for so long that it's pretty easy for me. They definitely each have their own quirks and interests and needs. Like right now, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to work with them because they're sleepy. Some of them are sleepy. So we're just not using those reptiles, which would be Winnie and Samson. They've both been acting like that they're going to brumate this year. Lewis is kind of temperamental. He only likes to be like doing stuff in the morning and early afternoon. He's not really a good participant later in the day. So if I need to do any content that requires a reptile for later in the day, I definitely leave Lewis out. Betty is actually the easiest lizard to work with. I can use her for just about anything, any time of the day or night. She is super chill. Samson's pretty moody, so as we all know, we just utilize Samson when we feel like it and if he's in the mood. And then Winnie is obviously special needs, so we have her do stuff. Sorry, Lewis is thinking about climbing out of his bucket. Anyway, we use Winnie if necessary, but she is newer to the family, so I don't harass her very much. Okay, next question. Where was I? Can you please share your dragon's daily routine, food, exercise, etc.? So this varies from day to day. It's not always the same. Usually I'm up by between like 4 and 6. I know that's a wide range, but that's kind of how it works at this time of year. I get Lewis up usually first, and he goes and sits in his heated bucket is what I call it. It's like a big wooden bowl with a dog bed inside and a heater pad. Lewis does that every morning. Betty goes into her window bed, which is also heated in the other room. And Samson, I usually wake up the latest because he's the laziest. And around between 7:30 and 8, I think I get Samson out of bed. And Winnie is about the same. They're kind of both on the same schedule right now. So. Okay, going back to the question about their daily routines, food and exercise, etc. So I have all adult dragons, so we only do insects 1 to 2 times a week, and especially right now, it is a shift in seasons. It's darker outside. It's getting colder. Everybody's appetite is a little bit suppressed, but typically during the months where that's not an issue, I will do dubia roaches 1 to 2 times a week, and I usually offer between 6 and 10 roaches depending on the reptile and their usual hunger. Betty is a big eater. She's a big lizard. She's definitely the biggest one that we have. Lewis is our lightest eater. I actually do offer Lewis like a couple bugs every other day just because he will not eat more than 2 or 3 at a time. So he definitely gets more offerings, but the same amount of bugs. Samson right now has not had any interest in bugs in like a week because he's been showing signs of brumating, and Winnie is in the same boat. She's typically a very enthusiastic eater, but she just has not had much interest. But aside from the insects, I do offer salads every single day. So every day they have a salad. I usually do a mix of mustard greens and kale and collard with, other seasonal bearded dragon safe veggies tossed in there, and sometimes some herbs if, depending on what we have and what's reptile safe. I get all of my greens and whatnot from a local cooperative grocery store. Everything is fresh and local, so it's kind of the best quality you can find, which I highly recommend because I don't have to worry about pesticides and all of that. Now to touch on the exercise. So like I had said before, Lewis goes into his bucket bed every morning. And I usually know he's ready to come out of that because he starts kind of roaming around. So he gets a little bit of free roaming time on the couch in the mornings. And Betty does kind of the same thing. She'll start to climb out of the bed, and she'll go down the ramp, and she'll run around. Once she starts doing that, I let her run around for a little while, but I put her back in her enclosure so that she can get all of the heat and lighting needs that they require. Samson always wants to come out in the afternoon. He hasn't been as enthusiastic about it lately just because, he's sleepy. But he always gets afternoon roaming time, and I've actually been using the free roaming time as a sort of physical therapy for Winnie. I let her run back and forth in the living room, and I do feedings outside of her enclosure and have her kind of run around chasing bugs so that she can develop those muscles that she was really, really lacking when we took her in. So I do give them exercise every day. They also all are in 4x2 enclosures, so they have plenty of space to roam around and climb and, do whatever lizards want to do. So another question, can you retell the history of how your dragons became yours? Well, man, I could write a novel on that, but long story short, Lewis and Samson were a 2-for-1 deal. I got them together off of a Craigslist ad. I had initially just gone in to get Lewis, and then they're like, hey, we have this other lizard, but he's kind of a jerk, and you can just have him. So that's how we ended up with those two. Betty, she needed a new home. She was a rehome, again, Craigslist. I went and picked her up, and it was like right before Christmas, so she was kind of our Christmas dragon. And then Winnie was dumped at a local pet store, and they called me and asked if I could take her in. I didn't know ahead of time that she was special needs. They just said that she had some issues, so that's how we got Winnie. Okay, this was a really good question. How do you know what vets take bearded dragons? I am really interested in getting one. So you have to find an exotic vet. Or sometimes they're advertised as, birds and exotics, but they tend to see reptiles. Any avian vets usually have some experience, but I would call ahead of time and ask them if they are comfortable treating reptiles and what their experience level is. Final question from Sugar Bee Apples. How would you rate Finding Mr. Christmas? Which totally made me laugh. It's a hilarious show if you're a fan of Hallmark movies or just lighthearted, good Christmas fun. I would definitely give the show a try. It's about a group of men that come on, and they're all competing for the title of Mr. Christmas. Last year was the very first season it was released, and it's just a bunch of guys that are competing for in different categories. Like last night they were skiing and making Santa costumes. It's like a do-it-yourself little craft that they did. And I don't even know what to say. It's definitely a 10. It's definitely funny and family friendly, and I don't know, give it a whirl. Okay, so one thing I did forget to say about Finding Mr. Christmas is that at the end, the winner who is selected gets to star in their very own original Hallmark movie that is usually released around Christmas time, and last year's was super great. Ironically, it was filmed here, or it was set here in Seattle. It was actually filmed up in Canada because I did my research. So I live in Seattle, and it was really charming to see some familiar areas and watch a very Pacific Northwest themed Hallmark movie.